Alrighty. Well, thank you, gentlemen, here for joining me for our 2024 Clinic Growth Chat. For our audience here, I want to just kind of introduce the gentlemen that are here with me. This is William Moore. He's the founder of Advanced Skin Fitness, which was the world's first cool hub, handpicked by Allergan to teach other clinics how to sell more CoolSculpting more effectively. He's also the founder of PhalloFILL, the male girth enhancement, which is a really interesting business, and we've worked with a lot of his businesses over the years to help inspire growth. He's absolutely an expert in clinic growth, and we're going to hear from him a little bit. We also have Jason Summers here, who is a sales and technology enablement guy. He's been doing that for over 25 years. Former winner of a national award for best sales technology. And he's joined here with us today as well. And so, like I said, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me. I just want to kind of set the stage here. Today we're going to be talking a lot about clinics and a lot of the stuff that we do, as well as sales tech and things that are available to clinics, and your opinion on some of the strategies and things that clinics should keep in mind coming out of 2024 and going into 2025. So thanks so much for joining me today.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So, I think kind of the first question up on the agenda today is, in 2024, we've seen a pretty significant increase in the difficulty that clinics have had when it comes to marketing and patient acquisition and selling high-ticket services specifically. And I just want to kind of preface, what do we think kind of the reason for that difficulty is? I know that there's been a lot of political considerations going on this year, and that people may be more concerned with monetary investments, especially of a large size, like some of these services are. There's also been an increase in difficulty with advertising, and consumers have really been, I think, desensitized to a lot of the typical marketing messages. So we'll start with Bill. What do you think about that?
Well, I believe that people are, their focus has changed over the past 22 years that I've been in the business. So my very first advertising method was the Yellow Pages. And when I say the Yellow Pages, I don't mean yellowpages.com. I mean the 2-inch thick Yellow Page book. And I had a full page ad advertising laser hair removal because at the time that was one of the primary services that we offered. I didn't have a website for the first 2 years that my clinic was open because really websites there weren't that many of them. There weren't med spas. Actually, the term med spa had not even been used when I first opened my first clinic. It was just a laser clinic. The term med spa, I think, came around about 2 or 3 years later. And over the course of the past 22 years, I've seen the way that people interact with us change. The method of communication has obviously changed. It was always phone calls in the beginning. Then it became some email. It wasn't until the past few years that it was some text messaging back and forth. And of course, now we have social media. And so we're messaging through the social media apps. But I do think that people are busier and they're more distracted. And I think one of the things that I've seen that has been most effective in my business is the ability for people to send messages back and forth via different applications. And that allows them to make a response in the morning when they have a couple minutes, and then they can make a response at midnight when they have a couple minutes. And then when they, a week later, they can pick up at the same conversation, as opposed to having to call in and try and find time to get the right person on the phone, because it's not always the person who answers the phone when you call a clinic that's the person that you want to speak to that's going to give you the answers that you're looking for. And so sometimes there would be back and forth phone calls. But I do think that the technology has evolved that has made things be a lot easier to communicate with patients. But I do think that they're more spread thin because there's so many more things that are happening than what it was when I first started this 22 years ago.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, all of the technology and the advancements that have been coming out recently in line with, I think, that change in consumer behavior, right? Text messaging technology, CRM technology, AI now is being hugely introduced in really meaningful ways. And I think that that's something that's really difficult to keep up with for the majority of clinic owners that really focus on the clinical parts of their business.
We want to practice aesthetics, and I
Right.
mean, I don't want to be the person trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to technology. It's nice to be able to have someone that is experienced, that knows all the ins and outs of all the different new methods of communication and the ways to generate leads and to capture the leads and to keep them engaged, because I don't know how to do all that. I mean,
Right.
I know a lot about it because I've been in it for a long time, but it's not my area of expertise. I know how
Yeah.
to make people be body contoured and make them have, male enhancement. Not necessarily my focus is on trying to learn how to put together a texting
Right.
system.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, Jason, you have a ton of experience with some of this sales tech and certainly a lot of the new AI and things that are coming out now, and you're pretty well versed in you know, how the consumer landscape looks at large with some very large businesses. So, you know, what's your opinion on all of this?
Well, it's interesting because I remember Yellow Pages and buying things from the Yellow Pages, and we're both getting a little older now. But it's interesting to think about that change over time, because it wasn't just that the technology has changed from a big yellow book to now all of these systems and capabilities that are there, but you also have a changing preference of your customer community, because now they have an interest in finding easy and more efficient ways to get information. When I went to school as a boy, if you wanted to learn something, it was at the library, right? You couldn't pull out a device out of your pocket and immediately get answers. Well, consumers, it was similar. There might have been a large ad in the Yellow Pages that shared some capabilities or some background. But now people really want information about the products, the services, sometimes the pricing, right? They want an ease of engagement to get answers, whether that be through AI bots now, which are kind of an emerging space in the marketplace. So as you think about the desire to better connect with potential clients, you also have to think about, well, how are their preferences for engagement and their preferences for service discovery changing over time? And are you evolving to be where they're going to be so that you can effectively capture that opportunity, so that you can make a connection and share with them the great things you're doing as a business that they may be interested in, that would be a value of that for them? And I think that's where, this new technology element, when it came to Yellow Pages, you had a Yellow Pages salesperson who would come and help you build an effective ad, and then it worked or it didn't work, right? But now it is a evolution, right? I mean, if you think of the internet and changes in the promotion of ads on the major services, or the actual content of your landing pages, there is so much analysis now, some of it even in real time, to make sure you're understanding changes in behavior that could vary over weeks or months, because of competitive action, because of news or interest in different services, because of seasons. It's New Year's. A lot of us will be thinking of aesthetics soon, right? Coming up. You want to make sure that you're on top of that, and that you've got a plan and the capability to go carry it out, because some of it is straightforward, but a fair amount of it requires some understanding of the tools that are out there to do it well.
Yeah, absolutely. For our second topic here today, we're going to be talking a little bit about what you all think the number one money-making strategy for clinics going into 2025 can be, and what's going to really make that big difference in their business when in terms of implementing. Right? Is there a specific technology? Is there a specific marketing strategy? Right? And so one of the things that I kind of want to introduce is I recently authored a book called M Cubed, Medical Marketing Magic. And, William, I know you wrote the foreword for that, and we talk in there a little bit about, right, your business ecosystem as a clinic owner and how you've got 3 different microsystems that make that up, right? Your lead capture microsystem, your lead conversion microsystem, and your referral generation microsystem, and some of the technology that kind of enables that and the strategies that we use. And if you're a clinic owner, I have to start off by saying that that book is basically a download of all of my knowledge in growing and marketing medical-based businesses, cash pay medical clinics, med spas, plastic surgery clinics. It's a huge resource. I know you've looked a little bit at it. What do you think is the number one strategy that can be implemented by clinics in 2025?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I feel like most clinics, the majority of clinics, don't have a good strategy about how they're going to get clients, keep clients, retain clients. I feel like there's this idea that anti-aging clinics and med spas are just these cash cows. And if you open your doors, that they're going to be flooded with clients. And I see so many open and so many close because they don't have a good strategy in place. And you can't rely on search engine optimization because that's going to take a really long time to get you up, if ever, to be able to compete with all the different anti-aging clinics and med spas on the market today. And you can't rely on them calling in your front desk person who you're probably not paying that much money to be able to be the front line of your business. So I really feel like what I implemented in 2020, which was my lead capturing system, where we entice them to give us their information, their text, phone number, and their email on our website, and then we have a trickle campaign where they get text messages and emails occasionally, maybe once a week, maybe sometimes twice a week, and we keep them engaged with different topics that are not focused on sales, that's educating the client. So I really prefer my client to be very educated when they come in. It makes my job a lot easier. It makes the phone calls after the procedure much less. Complication rate seems to be lower, even though they're not really having complications.
Right.
But if they're uneducated, they see something and they're not familiar with it, and so they begin to think it's a complication. So I like the education component. I like the trickle campaign because it keeps them engaged. And sometimes I find that I've got someone that's been in my campaign for 12 to 18 months before they pull the trigger and actually come in and drop their first dollar in my clinic. And then once they drop that first dollar and they become a client, then I want to keep them engaged in a different way so that they have more services. And if they come back and they have the same service again, and then we want to have some specials in place so that when we have Black Friday specials or Christmas specials, that it's very easy to get these messages out to the clients. And so the software that we have has got to really be encompassing of that. And then, you can also build in a referral system so that you can get your clients to bring in their friends, and you reward them in some way that is effective for you and for the client. So, maybe they're having one service, and their referral, you offer them another service that doesn't cost you a lot of money, and then all of a sudden they're addicted to your second service that you offer. So there's ways, and I know that you guys are really good at putting these together, and coming up with ways to entice referrals and to keep people engaged and to keep them coming back for more services and different services.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a lot of the stuff. A lot of those strategies are things that we do talk about in, my book, and a lot of the things that we implement for almost all of our private clients, right? They involve kind of some of those key components that you mentioned, and it really creates such a dramatic difference in not just the business and the bottom line, right, but also in the life of the clinic owner. And yeah, absolutely. It's really important to have a defined system and a plan and a process to, figure out, well, when you're getting all these leads in, first, how are you capturing them? Then how are you handling the surge? Let's say you're getting 200 leads a month and you want to follow up, even just 200, and you want to follow up with, let's say, 50 of them buy. Well, next month and every month after, that 150, you still have to follow up. So it starts building. And all of a sudden, you're at a point where you're needing to manually track and send out thousands of follow-ups a month, even if you're just getting 100 or 200 leads, right? So having a system in place with automated nurturing, especially over text messaging, we've seen, really create dramatic impact. And a lot of these lead captures are really unique. And I know that, Jason, you have some experience with, setting up these different lead captures and understanding somebody that's looking at a page on your website and they're prospecting about a particular treatment, right? What are the things that are going to, hit people at different stages in that purchase journey and convince them to give you that information that you as a clinic owner are looking for? Name, phone number, what you're interested in, right? So what do you think about that?
Well, I'll start. William basically has the whole structure worked out. I mean, it's fairly elegant, right? I mean, you think about attract. You've got to bring people to your business, right? And whether that's through paid search or through optimization, you need people to get to your content to start, right? Then there's an engagement on that website, right? And that is your material well aligned with the cues and the messages they're looking for that will affirm for them that they're at the place that they need to be, that this is the service that is applicable to them. Some of what, William and you talk about a lot about some of these tools for, surveys or questionnaires or qualification tools that are somewhat an affirmation to the user because they provide a little bit of background on the specifics of what they're looking for. And the tool gives them that affirmation that, hey, you're in the right place. This is the right service. We do have a capability that lines up well with what you want. And why do you do that? Because there is a internal reticence to sharing your information because you feel like, well, as soon as I do that, I'm somewhat obligated to a dialogue, right? So you want to break down some of that concern, that perceived risk on the part of the potential prospect, that this is a safe place, it's a good place, that what they're pursuing makes sense, that they won't be considered when they make that first contact and not be a viable potential client. They don't want to feel foolish, obviously. So that education element on the website and some of those tools that you talk about in your book that Williams had in his clinics, those are incredibly helpful, right? So that engagement to bring them on the site to a point of willingness to make, first contact, right? And that might be in the form of the, filling out a little form with an email or a phone number or calling directly into the clinic, right? And then there's sort of the capture mode, right? And I sort of roll in a lot of that drip education. And I love the concept of education, even in other industries, right? Customers are very leery of being sold, but they're very willing to enter into a relationship where they feel you're adding value for them. You're deepening their understanding. You are affirming for them your capability and expertise in a space. And with that, they will not only probably engage more with the material you push to them over time, but I think it will raise their esteem for your overall brand. And potentially, just like you shared, some of them even way down the road that maybe walked away originally, will end up being a capture for the business. And then I think, those same tools can be used in renewal. So you get somebody into the business. Can you renew their interest for subsequent purchases? Can you use that for referrals effectively? I think that is the tool set, right? And I think where the science of that comes in is that at each one of those stages, they sound basic, but there's so much that can be done, right? Even the front piece, right? The attract element, which is bring them to your web page.
Right.
There's so much there in not just the building of the cues, the buying of the AdWords, but tuning that on a regular basis so that you're getting an optimal return on whatever your invested dollar is in that marketing. That is a discipline into its own right. Just getting them to the front door. And are you bringing the people that really resonate? Like you might get 500, but if they're 500 who are looking for something slightly different than what you're doing,
Right.
well, you're not going to get the yield, right? You're going to have a lot more difficulty in the next stage to convert, to nurture them along the journey to get their information, and certainly more work to convert them into a revenue producing client. So a lot there.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you kind of touched on there, which has been really huge, I mean, especially in larger organizations, right, like PhalloFILL, one of the things that's been really huge and has been a big focus for us, right, as an agency that implements these things, is how do we get the knowledge about, okay, let's say we're running 5 Google Ads campaigns and, we're running 2 Meta campaigns and we're doing all this organic SEO work, right? How do we determine and give you the information as a clinic owner where the people that actually pay you come from originally, right? Because there's this big fallacy that's out there, right? Which is all of these agencies that push this idea of, oh, well, leads, right? A lot of the times, your clinic may not actually need more leads right now. You just may need to get better at converting them, right? You may have an issue with conversion and not with lead generation. And there's so many people that have flocked to this like business model of, oh, we're a lead generation company. And that's what you see all the time. So that's what you think you need, right? But when you actually get much deeper into the theory and the strategy, if you could convert, half of your leads to paying clients, you would probably 10x your money, right? Instead of continuously pumping more and more and more and more into Google Ads and all these machines. And then when you put that money in, you'll be able to see, well, Google Ads gets me more leads, but Meta Ads is getting me more paying clients, right? More patients in the door. So really, you should be reinvesting in Meta and not in Google.
Absolutely.
Or see why that one strategy is working. So that's something that's been really important. Alrighty, so and that kind of leads us in here, guys, to our next question, which is talking a lot more about the, little bit techier side of things, right? And what technology, yes, you do love that. What technology and software is out there and available for a clinic that right now may be wondering what a logical next step is to implement some of these things that we're talking about. And so this is one of the things that we are really good at here at CaptaFlow is patient acquisition, and we developed this system called the Clinic Growth System. And so it encompasses everything from how one of your prospective patients goes from knowing nothing about you to being a raving fan of your business that's going to bring in repeat and referral business. And so it is one resource, right? And it's powered by the CRM, right, which is Keep. Formerly Infusionsoft, they actually were just recently acquired by Thrive, which is another big tech and CRM company. Actually, funny enough, they used to be the digital version of the Yellow Pages. That was how they got their start, 25 years ago. And so now they've purchased Keep. They're the brain of our system, but we unite a whole lot of different technologies together to really get the best possible outcome for our client. Bill, I know that we've implemented some of these things for you, and you have an experience working with Keep and other CRM systems for your clinics in the past. So, what are your thoughts on the different technology that's available to clinics right now?
Well, I do love Keep. So this is my third CRM software that I've been involved in. The first one, I think, was something that was programmed specifically for me by a programmer. This was 15 or more years ago. It captured some very limited data. It helped us with some email campaigns. It's been about 15 years. Then I did try to use Salesforce unsuccessfully because it was too big. It was too robust.
Yeah.
And I I never found the right programmer for it to actually make it work for me. And what we ended up with was a version of it that was too difficult for my staff to use. And so they just didn't use it. And so nothing was ever tagged, and we never moved clients from different places within the pipeline. I found Keep when it was Infusionsoft, and I'm going into my 5th year now using this particular program, and I have found it to be very, very easy to use for my staff to be able to tag clients of where they are in the sales funnel process. Also integrating with our text messaging platform that I think that you guys set up for us, which is called Fix Your Funnel, that sends the text messages directly to their cell phone, and all that's controlled through the Keep software. But I really do like it. I think that it's not so large that it's confusing. I think that the graphics capabilities, which I know that you guys are going to do this for your clients, but in the beginning I was doing it all.
Right.
I did all the programming when we first started using Infusionsoft, which is now Keep, and it was easy for me to go in, and the graphics program was something like I used to use back in the day when I used to drag and drop photos and change fonts, and I was able to set up my header, my footer, and my template, and I had a really good success rate. And that's really what took my company, Advanced Skin Fitness, to the next level, was when I was able to implement that software that was integrated in with the texting. And then we of course used it for PhalloFILL as well from the very beginning. And it has taken PhalloFILL, my gosh, you know this better than I do, but I mean, we get how many thousands?
Absolutely, yeah. You guys are actually, you've had some months over 3,000 leads in a singular month that are all managed, and upwards of 9,000 or 10,000 sales conversations happening over text message, with your team. You've absolutely been able to see the scale size of that. You've got, I think over almost 35,000 contacts in there now since you started using it. And I have to say that Keep is probably one of the best softwares out there from a CRM standpoint. That really their specialty is all automation, right? Their automation builder, and that was part of the reason that they were acquired by Thrive, is because their automation builder is so good. You can connect it to anything, you can use it for anything, and that's what we've built out all of our more complex stuff within, that acts as the brain. It tells the rest of the parts of the business ecosystem how to move, when to send a text message, when to send an email, what to say in it, right? All that stuff. And so, I know you, Jason, have a ton of experience in this kind of sales tech space and CRM stuff like that. Talk a little bit about some of the technology you've seen that could be beneficial.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, this whole sequence. We'll use the term sequencing, right? That you get a new prospect that comes in and you create a sequence of engagements you want to follow that might start with an email. There might be a text message that follows, maybe an article or knowledge elements. Now, you would hear some people say, well, I don't need the technology, right? I can have my front desk person or somebody else go in, and they're going to have a list. And William is right. Big mistake. And the challenge is this, is that even though they might be really effective people at their role, in the midst of a regular day job, it is very difficult to have the discipline to track, even if you only had 20 active leads at a given time, to track them and to realize where someone is and to monitor whether there was feedback and to potentially change the timing or content of the next message and to stay on that sequence. I mean, part of what research has found is so powerful about putting together a good sequence is there is sort of a natural human reaction to how long a thought is in our mind. And if you can target that sequencing to not be abusive to where the messages are coming constantly, but to keep something top of mind and to predict, well, if they haven't acted at this point, what would be the next most valuable piece of knowledge to get in front of them to potentially move us forward in their perception towards maybe making contact or, going further. That is an incredible advancement of the last 10 years. Like, sequencing went from being kind of a a general idea to being something that is now becoming incredibly common. With all the significant software companies really building out capabilities in this space, and technologists like you and businesses really giving serious thought to what is the best way, when you've got somebody that's in that new state. The other piece I would add to it is not all the sequences are the same. And this is what we see coming now in the next 2 to 4 years. So today, it's very common in a tool to say, I'm not just going to have one sequence. I might have 3 or 4 sequences, not just depending on maybe what your interests are, but maybe other things that I can glean about your likely persona, like the kind of buyer you are. That's today's tech, right? Like if you have a sequencing tool, you might have a couple different sequences you're going to follow and some logic as to how you work your way down those paths. In the future, the AI is taking over. And the AI is going to monitor every click that you made on the page. It's going to monitor how fast you clicked. It may monitor how you scrolled and which section of the screen you spent time on. And that may inform which articles get sent. Because if I looked at laser removal for 3 minutes and I blew right by another section, the AI is going to say, oh, you're interested in laser removal. We're gonna push you towards that direction until we see behavior that is contrary. And that's if you fast forward the next 2 to 4 years, where I think the agencies that are supporting this industry are going to be going. It's, hey, how do we train those AI systems to really be tuned into that, so that we can. And it's not just trying to. It's not coercion. You're really trying to better serve information that's useful to a person so that they can make a decision. Because there obviously was some interest, because they did show up. And then can you present them with a complete story that's compelling? And that's where AI is going to help.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things that's kind of already coming.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen implementation
for
up. Some of our private clients, implementation for you with PhalloFILL, using a lot of these different AI technologies, right, in how we can automate different processes and use AI to analyze all of these mass amounts of data that we pull in on website prospects, that we pull in on leads, that we pull in on all this stuff. One of the recent things that we've developed and that we're using for you all now is every week you get a summary, and you guys spend quite a bit of money on ads, right? And you get a weekly summary of all of the different metrics that we see from all of your different ad campaigns, what that says about your market share, what that says about ad performance and all the different things. And we're generating and sending these weekly reports now. And so that's going to be one of the biggest things that will be implemented into the clinic growth system, is how do we take the AI, right, and teach it to analyze all of the customer data to provide something that they're more interested in to improve the chance of a conversion outcome that is desired, right? That's exactly what we're looking for, and it's one of the things that's coming much sooner than a lot of people think. Yeah, and so Bill, one of the other things that's really important to consider, right, is, what technologies somebody would want to be implementing to achieve these different things. So, what technologies would you recommend?
Well, so my latest project that I'm working on has been an avatar of myself with, right now I've got about 50 different looks with different clothing, and I've been working on my avatar for quite a while now and trying to get my voice exactly like I want my voice to be. And my goal is to create content to drive people to my website, because you guys are always telling me we need you to do more videos. We need you to spend some time in front of the green screen, and we need for you to do this and that, and so we can cut and edit and put this stuff together. I'm busy, and I'm behind the treatment room, and I'm seeing patients. And when I'm not seeing patients, I'm trying to run a business. So it's really hard for me to find time. It's something that I kind of always put off, is getting in front of the camera and doing speaking about the different services that we offer. So my goal is to hire someone sometime in 2025, and their full-time job is just going to be to create written content for us and be able to turn that into videos with my avatar. Now, the next step that I'd like to do is that I would like for my business partner, Dana, to be able to have an avatar as well. And so I have now seen software that will actually create an entire podcast for you, and you can let the content be created, and then it will apply the dialogue to both voices. I've actually done a couple of tests with it, and it's quite amazing what it can do these days. And so, I mean, we can actually create shows just like hey guys, this is not real. We actually this is all AI.
By the way, William is an AI avatar.
So I'm going to be able to have these amazing podcasts and different things. And one of the most exciting things about it is I have a lot of Spanish speakers. I'm in Texas. And so now I have the ability to take something that I've done and very quickly convert it into Spanish. And I've done a few videos where it converted my voice exactly like I'm speaking to you right now into Spanish. And my mouth is moving. It changes the video. My mouth is moving to match the Spanish dialogue. And now we can do this in basically any language. So I am really excited about 2025 and the software that I'm using, which is called HeyGen. On a weekly basis, that software is better. 4 weeks ago, whenever I was creating avatars from a standalone photograph, so you take a standalone photograph and it will make your mouth move and your eyes move, and I don't like the teeth that it gives me. I have better teeth than the teeth that the avatar has, but it is over the past 12 weeks, I would say maybe even less, maybe the past month. Now it's taken 20 photographs and it's combining these 20 photographs into one avatar, still photographs. This isn't even a video that I've had to record. It's just quite amazing how fast it's changing and what it's going to be like in the next 3 months. I mean, we're going to put out some pretty amazing content in 2025 that I'm only going to have to just let my team find important, relevant information to type into a chat box, and it's going to use my voice and my images and my video to create this.
Absolutely. And actually, that's one of the things that we've also been implementing recently. There's a software that we use and that I'm sure that, maybe a pretty decent portion of our audience may be aware of, which is called Loom. Right. And one of the things that Loom lets us do now is if we come into the clinic and, we film a video that, doesn't have to be filmed on a computer, like to use it as a Loom, but can be uploaded to Loom later, where let's say your patient coordinator's walking through with the camera what it's like to actually come in for a consultation, right? And then we can have the beginning portion of that, as well as the title of the video, swap out people's names. It can then be sent in text messaging. Let's say you book your first consultation for CoolSculpting with, back when you were running Advanced Skin Fitness, with Advanced Skin Fitness, and you get a text message that has a video of you walking people through, well, this is what it's like to come back to the treatment room, and these are the things that we'll talk about. But the beginning of the video says, "Hey, James, I'm really excited to meet you." But you don't have to film it again. And then it says, "Hey, Samantha," right? And so it's always changing it out and can be like seamlessly integrated into the messaging that we send out, right? One link that, depending on what your name is, when you click it, the video that loads has your name in it. It's very cool stuff. And so, that's more of kind of a marketing perspective when we look at, okay, well, how do we get people that do book consultations to make sure they show up for them and make sure they're educated before they come? And that's also all stuff that gets wrapped into the clinic growth systems processes. But it kind of leads me into our next question here, which we'll start off with you, Jason. What are the things that in 2025, given this consumer landscape, given the tech that we're seeing and all the hyper-personalization that's available, and from a web perspective, what are the marketing things that a clinic should be considering for strategy when going into 2025?
Wow, there's a lot. I think you're going to see a lot more adaptive advertising, right? I mean, we've already we're already feeling it. All of us know that we suspect that the machines are listening, because we'll talk about wanting to get CoolSculpting, and then for the next 3 weeks, my Facebook feed and every feed I've got, and probably even on the radio, I think now I'm starting to hear and see everywhere, directed advertising, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be even more of that now that the AI is really coming to bear. That's going to be very significant. I think another element, like if I think about tools and tech that are coming, and it was interesting about the avatars, but I think another one that's going to be very significant, we already are seeing production demonstrations on, are the virtual artificial agents, right? So imagine now that I could almost go into a live dialogue with a true expert on a particular capability or interest or question that I've got, and I could ask any plain text question, and it will flawlessly summarize that from what could be hundreds of documents that I've pulled together to make available for them to ask questions on.
Right.
And even going the next step and automating customer service. Today, certainly you can go online the web and you can make your appointment. There's lots of good software that does that. But imagine that I could now call, the office number, and a perfect human voice is interacting with me in real time and asking about what services I need and when I might be available. And it's gonna do the whole front desk function. Now that sounds like science fiction, but there are companies out right now demonstrating that, and that means it's probably a year to 18 months before it's fairly commonly available. How will that change things for us, where we know that in any selling context, someone can speak to a true expert, somebody who can make an appointment at 3 a.m, as a person, while answering questions about, hey, how long will the procedure take? And wow, it'll gives the right answer, and always is pleasant and is infinitely patient. That's the thing that you hear in a lot of the text, that it's very difficult because people who work in call centers or even in a front desk job, they're used to getting calls, and sometimes those calls are unpleasant. And it's just human nature to not always respond joyfully to a difficult call, but the AI does, because its feelings are always positive, because it's been told that the client is always right, and it'll work to make that work. And right now, like I said, it all feels like this couldn't possibly come to pass, but I think in 2 years, you'll see this is fairly common. There's still some expense to it. It's still a little expensive. You hear a lot of folks talk about 50-50 on the hourly cost of front desk staff versus automation. But again, as you start to scale, as you want people to be able to get perfect access to information while they're engaged on your site, or maybe even if they want to talk about it instead of type about it, and depending on your clientele, you may have people who are more or less technical savvy or wanting to do things through a browser interface. I think that's going to be a really key capability this year. Perfect access to information, summarized and available on a total free-form, free speech prompt. That's going to be big.
And I would say accurate information as well, because I still see that people, I see the conversations in our text messaging, and I still see that my staff gives incorrect answers to certain situations, and it would be nice to know that you don't have to train anyone, and that
no
they
more
can't
onboarding,
resign, and
the phone would never be busy. If 5 people called at the same moment, 5 agents, perfectly happy, glad to see them.
Right, and it all is like really hyper realistic. Yeah. I mean, even just some of the demos that I've seen from these companies demonstrating it, because we're always trying to stay on top of the most current, the best, and what's really going to deliver the best results for our clients. We're on top of all of the tech, so I see all of these things. I see these demos that these companies put out, and it is really impressive. The accuracy of the answer given a constrained set of data, right? So you have to constrain the information you put into the AI, because that's how you're going to control the quality of the output, right? But if you can do that, the accuracy and the quality of that really is stunning. one of the big considerations with AI now, especially when we're talking about clinics and when we're talking about a front desk type scenario or booking or anything like that, one of the big considerations is HIPAA.
Yeah.
And a lot of the clinic owners that may be watching this may be wondering, well, is there HIPAA compliant AI out there? Because natively, a lot of the base AI models that are out there right now are not, right? They won't sign BAAs. There's no protection or isolated storage of whatever information somebody may give to it. But there is actually a company right now that has put out a HIPAA compliant version of AI. You can only buy the HIPAA compliant version that they've trained.
Right.
They do the data storage. And we've been working with them to go into clinics with our private clients, right, and use that version of the AI to analyze, patient journey data, because normally that data is technically, depending on what it is, considered private health information. Because if you say, and there was recent legislation about this that actually came out of Texas, where they had originally ruled that somebody submitting a form on your clinic's website that's talking about the PhalloFILL procedure, right, that is private health information because it's indicating a future potential to receive that treatment. However, right, that decision actually got reversed and held as unconstitutional out of Texas. So it's a little bit up in the air right now. But that's another thing I talk about in my book, along with all the other tech that we use, what is and is not compliant and why.
It's interesting with the AI and you're right, Caton, that this is an emerging space, right? And they're going to have to, not only are you going to have the businesses trying to come alongside of what HIPAA, and by the way, there are other regulations, but at the same time, the states are now all, because of the rapid evolution of the capability, there's going to be lots of new regulation on, what kind of disclosure is required. Like Today, there are disclosures for recording if you're going to retain the call, the actual audio or a full transcript. Not as much around if I call into your clinic and the person I'm speaking to actually isn't breathing.
Right.
Depending on the state, you could have different policy as to whether that has to be disclosed. Hi, I'm a virtual desk agent, right?
Right.
That's going to evolve quickly. So you could see lots of new regulation. I think one of the benefits of an agency who is really focused in this space is that that's part of their responsibility, is trying to bring, the clinic knowledge on, hey, in their space, in their state, what are the regulations? I know from the AI space, right, one of the things they're saying is zero train, zero retain, which is, your system is here, right? And somebody may put in a piece of information. Your clinic may have lots of information about what they've done and not done. The AI systems, at least where it appears they're going, is they will be built in a way that they don't train from your data. They don't retain your data. It's as if they have total knowledge in a flash, can act on that, and then give you back a response into your space, which may be HIPAA compliant, regulated otherwise, but that the AI system itself will have no memory of that transaction ever happening, right? And that's going to be an interesting capability as that architecture evolves.
And we'll see even like how legislation comes out against or for that, because that's always a really complex landscape, right? Is what's happening with all of this stuff, right? With Google Ads, with Google Analytics, which both of which are not natively compliant, right? For several reasons. And you have to be really intentional about what you train those ad platforms off, because it's not the same as AI, but they do offer, right, automatic optimization. So you feed data back into the Google Ads platform, and then it tailors and changes the ads to find other people like that. But if the data you feed back in is protected by HIPAA, you've done a big no-no because, Google as a company will not sign a BAA on behalf of any of those platforms, right? And that data is not strictly enough controlled to be used in that setting. So really, you have to be very intentional. And again, back to what we're using the CRM and Keep technology for, right? Use it as well as automation and marketing and text messaging. Use it as a central data warehouse, if you will, to store all of this stuff, because Keep CRM is HIPAA compliant and has HIPAA protections in place. And especially if you work with a company like CaptaFlow, or there are other companies out there as well, but we sign BAAs, right? We set up these systems to be strictly compliant. And once the data flows into the CRM, you can really have an unparalleled amount of control over what data leaves, right? And so you can still use automation to train them, but you don't associate that with, right, what you use to identify the person. Any of the name, email, phone information doesn't get fed back to Google. So yeah, there's a lot of complexities there, but it's really interesting what we've been able to do. So, Bill, one of the really important things for clinics is their website and their web presence. What do you think is really important for clinic owners to keep in mind when it comes to their website and what should be on there, and how to present themselves to prospects?
Well, I think that one of the first mistakes that business owners make, and I find this to be very common in med spas, trying to save money. Sometimes the budget isn't so large. They hire their nephew or their brother-in-law to do their website for them, and then it's not done correctly, and it has videos and it has all this content that's irrelevant. And I go to the website and I feel like that it's wasting my time, and I just want to see what service is right for me, how I am to do the service, and what I can expect from the service. I don't want to see all the fluff. So I think that trying to get the website to be concise and well organized and easy to read and easy to get through, and not have all these videos and all these different rabbit holes that you can get yourself into.
Right.
Just give me what I need to see right then and there, and give me a really easy way to get into the system. I go to websites sometimes and I can't find where they're located. I was going to get my hair cut last week for the first time, and I'm telling you, I never found the address for the location on the freaking website, and I was going crazy. I don't think it's on there. I don't think the address is on there. I don't think that the address wasn't on there. And then the other day I was at someone's website. It was a med spa, and I couldn't figure out how to get my question answered, which should have been the lead capture, which should have been a very easy way for me to get into their database, whether it be taking a quiz or whether it be looking at before and after photographs, and then you're required to give your information to look at the before and after. There's so many creative ways that you guys have come up with to be able to capture information without making them think that I'm just grabbing your information. Like on my website, for PhalloFILL, we have pictures of naked men, before and afters. We claim that we have to verify their information, make sure that they're 18 years or older. Yeah. But we're really just trying to get their email address and their phone number. But but they don't feel like that they're giving up their life or their identity so much as whenever it's for a particular reason. So it can be done in a way that makes them feel comfortable. But I think that making the website not so big and vast and hard to understand and navigate is one of the first things that people should be focused on. Just make the site more simple.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think that that's something that's pretty important too, right? Like you said, make your site easy to navigate. Make it easy for somebody to find the answer that they're looking for, because let's all be honest, why do they go onto your website? They're looking for something, right? Whether they're at a place in their purchase journey where they're just kind of kicking the tires and looking around and seeing what they may be interested in, whether they've picked a particular treatment that they are pretty certain that they want to receive, right? And they're really looking for education about that treatment and how it applies to their body or their goals, right? Is it the right thing? Or there's somebody that's ready to buy, right? And so you should have things on your website. It should be very clean. It should be very organized, right? Easy to use and navigate. And then you should put things on there. And one of the things that we've been really successful with is implementing these lead captures like you're talking about to meet people where they are in the purchase journey, right? So somebody that may just be kicking tires, well, they may have a question that they want to ask. They're not really interested enough to fork over a whole lot of information, but they may be willing to send us a text message, right? And so having that call to action on the website or having a chat window that, they can open up and ask a live person, right? A real live person that we run, right? That works for us, that can answer their question or direct them to a live person at the clinic. But also for people that are really looking for education, right? I will say one of the biggest difference makers for some of our private clients have been these quizzes and these quiz-based lead captures, right? One of the ones that you used with Advanced Skin Fitness that I know you guys saw fantastic results with was the InSculpt platform, right? Which gives a sample treatment plan for CoolSculpting body contouring, right? Something that previously is not available unless you actually go into the clinic. And really, is that the final treatment plan that they're going to stick with? Maybe not, right? But it gives them something they're actually looking for because they're looking for education. And for people that are ready to buy, the problem more becomes, well, how do you convince them to buy from you, right? And so that's where, different patient testimonials on the site are important, types of social proof like that, and then setting up some sort of new patient special. It's always harder to get somebody in the door the first time than it is to get them to come back or refer a friend, so long as they've had a positive experience. So offering that discount for people that are, new patients or first-time patients can be a really great way to grow the clinic and prop you up over the competition that may be in your area, especially for high-ticket services where price may be a larger concern for people. From a marketing message perspective, Jason, when we're talking about, well, what is the content that should be on a site aside from lead capture, right? We're talking about written content. What are your thoughts about if you're trying to market a service, what's the types of written content that you should have on there?
Well, I would agree. Simple is better and easy to navigate, right? There's been a trend of recent where there are these massive graphics which are being put on web pages, and to get to anything useful, you have to go, 2, 3, 4 levels down because there's just these huge splash graphics that look beautiful, but are they really efficient to finding things?
They block your SEO too.
And they block your SEO.
Yeah.
And I find that I often go to these sites and I'm very frustrated, finding simple things, addresses, or I want to purchase a particular thing. And where are the categories? Like, how do I get to the actual content that talks about those services? So I think simplicity, but then with layers, right? If I want to go deep, so let's say I click on a first page and maybe it's on a particular, spa service. And it might give me very fundamentals of like, hey, these are some of the benefits. But then there's an option for me. If I want to go another layer, I could, or maybe I go into the survey, which those are very powerful because, because once someone goes through the survey, they feel vested, right?
Right.
But also they feel vested when they read more about the material. William's written a lot, right? He's got a lot of original content. I think where you've got background, more information in making decisions, to some buyers that's helpful. Some just want to get to your phone number and know that you sell a particular thing.
Right.
So that layered approach But starting simple, it's very easy to see the fundamentals of what we offer, because there is that first click phenomena where I searched for a thing, I ended up, or I got an email and I responded to it and I got that first click and I'm on that site, and is my click being confirmed and affirmed because I see the kinds of things that are, at least at a high level, the interest that brought me to this place? Or am I hitting the back button and am I going to the next link because your site did not grab me right away, or I thought, oh, this isn't what I want, and I might not have taken the time to watch the video, right? How many people are really doing that at any length because their attention spans are so low from the constant scrolling, right? Yeah. Or reading the article or reading all the details buried in paragraphs. So I would agree that, like, the design is critical if you want to make sure that first click conversion, that first click, affirmation is there and that it is strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, another thing that our clients have really seen, first of all, we hear the story all the time that, somebody has hired a web company that went and charged them $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000. And we go and look at their website that they have, and I mean, it just really does not look like anything in the realm of $20,000. I mean, I could have made that website in high school. I mean, seriously.
And the back end is worse.
Right, and the back end is even worse. And there are so many clinics out there where I go on the website, and it's so complicated to navigate. There's so many videos. It loads slow. The SEO is horrible. And it just makes me not want to look at anything on the site, right? And these are the types of websites that a lot of these very, forward-thinking, modern companies want to build. These websites where they have huge image backgrounds and I'm scrolling and it's like everything on the page is moving. Right. That is not a user experience that somebody that's coming in to buy something that is, maybe a $5,000 or $10,000 procedure is going to want to have, right? Another thing that I see on a lot of clinic sites is it reads too much like an educational brochure, right? There is not enough on there that is about, the benefit that somebody receives from the treatment. A lot of it is about the treatment and a lot of medical specifications and, things about their clinic. And that's all great to know, right? But really, boil it down to why somebody is looking into getting, for example, CoolSculpting, right? Why does somebody...
And why your clinic. That's
right, exactly.
One of the things that I find
right,
too.
Exactly, right? Why is somebody looking into CoolSculpting, and why are they looking into doing CoolSculpting at your clinic? Why are you a better option than, ABC clinic down the street, right? And so having that content on there and framing the headlines, right, of your page to be something that's talking about, well, you want to get skinnier, well, you want to feel more confident in bed with your partner, right? Any of these different things that are the emotional reason that somebody is going to buy and spend the money on that, right? And that also gets applied to the sales you can run. That's why the, summer bikini CoolSculpting specials do so well. Because as summer starts rolling around, everybody starts thinking about being on the beach in a bikini and that maybe there's a little extra fat there that they'd like, they'd rather not to be there. Right. Exactly.
That's observation. Yeah.
So, yeah, those things have been really important to, really purposefully, every single thing and every single element of the site, every word, every piece of copy should have an express intended purpose to the person that's looking at it. And the fluff that you were talking about is all of the stuff with no purpose, right? So I think that it's important to really be thoughtful about that. And that's one of the things that we do really well here when we look at building a clinic, a website. There's no sitting there and nitpicking like all of these things because I've already looked over it before you've even seen it. I've gone through that thing with a fine-tooth comb before it even reaches your eyes, right? And that's a lot of the stuff that we don't see happening at a lot of these other agencies.
Caton, in your work, have you all found value in A/B testing web page landing pages?
Absolutely. And even more than just testing the landing page, right? So, down to even specific keywords when we're running Google ads and testing two versions of copy for one keyword.
Right.
So somebody searches, CoolSculpting near me and, out of 200 people that see the ad, the first 20 see one version and the next 20 see the other. And then we can automatically say, well, whichever one better performed, the other, 160 people are going to see that version of the higher performing ad.
I think an interesting thing that's going to come about is going to be as the AIs get more involved in A/B testing. Because today you could create, whether it be your text message, the video you send, the content, the AdWords on whatever platform you're on, or I think landing page, not even A/B, but A, B, C, D, E, and F testing, where as people are coming in, you're serving different pages and then building statistics on the engagement around them, and then starting to channel more people into the ones which seem to be getting the better response. The interesting thing will be with AI, and there's a lot of dialogue out there, and the thought leaders are talking about, will the AI start to create the different copy to test? So like if it sees that a text message that used this phraseology did better, will the AI be able to start varying that to really dial in a way that's different than today, where you might have had to have written A, B, C, D, and E? It may be doing that in real time. So I think we'll see a lot of scholarship and even field intel coming out of that in the next couple of years. That'll be interesting.
Absolutely. And it's something that really is, because previously, especially if you're a clinic owner that is trying to do this yourself, that's trying to run Google ads, you're not an agency, you're not specialized, you don't have people where that is their whole job. It can be really difficult to split test on the level where it will really matter. Right. We see a lot of statistics coming out that sees a huge difference be made once we get over 11 split tests per month. Right. So that there are 11 times, obviously assuming that you're spending enough money on advertising, but that when you get over 11 split tests a month, you start to see really the exponential part of that curve shoot up when it comes to results, right? And how much better that 12th version is than the first and second that you put it up against.
I want to make one comment here. I don't know what you're talking about. And so that is one of the reasons that as a clinic owner that we hire someone like you to do this, because I have no idea what you just talked about. and something else that I did not know about that was mentioned in a previous conversation was about the case that happened in Texas where about the HIPAA compliance and the CRM. I'm operating in Dallas. I did not know until you just said that. So it is impossible for us as business owners and clinic providers and to be in this space to know. I can understand medical compliance, but I don't necessarily understand medical compliance with CRM and with Google Ads and all the different nuances.
And it's so complicated. Like, it is not something that is simple. I mean, you look at just the strategy for how we get more people to look at the website. There's like 15 different things involved in that you need to find other ways to do because of HIPAA, right? Like, I mean, legitimately, almost all of the, I'll call them big box softwares, right? Things that are very commonly used. Google Analytics, Google Ads, Meta Ads. If you look at any of the TikTok ads or advertising on Facebook or any of these different places, even with search engine optimization and SEO, getting traffic to your site organically, there are so many things involved in setting up each of those systems. And there are so many of those pieces that are not natively compliant, right? So it really is a full-time job just to stay on top of the legislation, right? And so a lot of that stuff is also covered in my book. Same way with, on all of these advertising platforms, there are immense restrictions for, let's say, you're a clinic that does a lot of HRT and semaglutide, and you want to go and advertise semaglutide on Meta. You can't. You can't. You need a special approval. For all of those of you watching, you could go look it up. It's called a Legit Script certification. Legit Script is a company that comes in, and for all of these big advertisers, they'll come into your business and they check everything. They make sure you're not using compounding pharmacies. They make sure that you're adhering to data compliance when it comes to storing all of your data, prescribing where those prescriptions are coming from, where the drugs. They analyze your entire business to make sure that all of it is 100% ethical and compliant before they will give you a certification that then allows you to go and obtain written permission from the advertisers to advertise prescription drugs or lots of things like that. There's huge restrictions. And actually, if you go and read M Cubed, all of a majority of that information about what is and is not compliant and what are the really big challenges that you face, a majority of that information is in there because it's so important to understand that environment if you're a clinic owner that wants to try and do it yourself. And if you're not, then my phone number's in there too.
So you have this M Cubed on audio
we will be putting it out on audio and on ebook, so you can get it on an e-reader. Nice. Absolutely. It's going to be one of the single best resources out there, I think, for clinic owners to really understand my world that I'm in every day, right? Which is growth and advertising and marketing and data analytics and storage. And so that kind of leads us into one of our last pieces here, which is like, Bill, you have more insight into this, being a larger organization. For, let's say, those clinics that are larger organizations that maybe have got 3 or 4 locations or even up to, 10 or 12 locations, right? How are they most efficiently going to scale? And aside from just marketing automation, what are the other places that AI or automation or, talk about employees and human capital, right? Like what things are important for them to consider when they want to scale, right? And I know that is a loaded question. That is huge, but, what are the big things to keep in mind when they're looking to do that this year?
Number one, organization. And having your systems, as we've just been discussing the different systems, the systems have to be in place. They have to be solid. They have to work like they're intended to work. And your employees, even though they're not on the front line taking phone calls necessarily in the way that some of these systems operate, they still have to be really, really dedicated and want to do their job correctly. So, I think one of the biggest mistakes that owners make in general is that they see red flags of employees and sometimes they don't terminate them soon enough.
Yeah.
So you always want to have the right person in place. And I'm a true believer that if you see a red flag in the very beginning, just cut your ties.
Yeah,
because there's somebody else out there that's not going to give you a red flag. So staying organized, and we're at 30 clinics now. We want to have 40 by the end of 2025. Is that where we are? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So we I'm talking to, is it the year 2025? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So staying organized, having the right people in place, and having them with the understanding of how the systems operate, the tagging correctly, making sure that they understand the importance that if they miss this one step on this one person, then this one person could go unseen and may miss the special. Right. They may not get the refill special, or they may be an existing client and they may get a new client special, which makes this going to make them want to have a discount that they're not really entitled necessarily
exactly
to. So everything has to be in place. It has to be functional, and you've got to have the right team in place as you scale to make sure that they do this all correctly.
Exactly. And there's a lot that we've been implementing even outside of some of that marketing automation, right? Like one of the things that, we'll do for clinics is we'll come in and we'll say, okay, I'll be talking with the owner and I'm like, I want you to write down 20 things that your business is currently doing manually, things that are repetitive tasks for data entry, for all these other things, right? And automating those processes to really boost efficiency on an organization-wide scale, right? So that you can focus people on the things that really need people attention, right? And like you said, to keep people dedicated to those specific things is really important as an owner. Jason, I know you have a lot of experience with organizations at scale and a lot of this technology at scale. What's your 5 cents on, clinic owners that may be looking specifically at 2025, their organization's objective to be to scale and 2x their number of locations?
Well, I mean, William's right. I mean, process, as you in the outset when you get started, you have an owner or the originators that are very close to the work being done and the people doing all the jobs. But as you spread both in scale, even at one location, or geography, which is even more challenging because you can't be everywhere at once, how do you tie those things together, right? In a way that you can get leverage, right? So if you've got, 40 clinics or 100 clinics and they're all able to leverage your same lead development and capture systems and intelligence and reporting, right? And that's sort of the second piece I'd say. And that is, as a leader, make sure you've got the dashboard so that you can easily look at, hey, how did we do yesterday? How are my locations performing? What are the 5 or 6 indicators that tell me that we're healthy and growing? And you basically do exception management, right? Which is, wow, all of these are within sort of my healthy range, but I've got 2 locations here that are, conversion doesn't seem as strong, or even things that aren't as technical. Our feedback scores are not as good. Well, then that really allows a leader or even second tier below owners and proprietors to laser in on areas where they can make improvements to bring someone, to bring a group or process into the norm. And I think having those dashboards that are simple and easy to act on, I would focus a lot of energy there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we've been recently developing and are now, I guess officially by the time this is out, we will have released it, is something called the AROS system, and that's an advanced resource optimization system. And it has to do a lot with the KPI analysis that really becomes how you, as a leader of an organization looking to scale, right? You're not directly involved in the majority of the things happening at physical locations anymore. So the only way for you to really do, that health check on, let's say you've got 15, 20, in Bill's case, 30, 40 locations, right? And you want to look at which ones are performing well, which ones aren't performing well, why they may not be performing well. That analysis is super important. And the AROS system basically comes in and provides all of those dashboards out of Google Looker and all these different things for your marketing, but also for your sales performance, right? And ties back sales performance to marketing spend, even down to around specific geotagged locations around a clinic, right? It may use AI to assess maps of household income around those locations, help you pick out new locations that may be advantageous to place your next clinic. And, all of that different reporting unifies all of your data, all of it for analysis, and gives you a total view of every part of your business that's important to look at. And that's kind of what I'll finish out with here. Thank both of you gentlemen for joining me here. Guys, for our audience watching, if you'd like to be a PhalloFILL provider and offer the PhalloFILL treatment that Bill has been building up over here, it's an amazing product. Go over to his website at PhalloFILL.com and check out a little bit about what they do. And
That is spelled PHALLOFILL.com.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Jason, thank you so much
very
for
welcome.
joining us
Very
today.
welcome.
For our audience, go and check out M Cubed, which should be out now on all platforms. Going to be one of the best resources for you to be able to grow your business. Lays out kind of all the different strategies and a lot of the things that we talked about here today. You can also check out my company, CaptaFlow, where we specialize in setting up all of these different systems for clinics like PhalloFILL, Advanced Skin Fitness, and quite a few other clients that you can take a look at on our website. That's spelled CaptaFlow, CaptaFlow.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that this has been beneficial for you to take a look at. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Caton.